Tired of restless nights? At Leesa, we know good sleep is essential for mental, physical, and emotional health. From memory foam mattresses to hybrids that keep you cool all night long, Leesa's mattresses offer exceptional comfort and support with free delivery and 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your home. For a limited time, save up to $700 off select mattresses plus 2 free pillows. Go to leesa.com/iHeart for an additional $50 off mattresses and select goods. Exclusions apply. See leesa.com for more details.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Brakes? We can save you 15% on that. We have OE quality Duralast brake pads and rotors in stock, ready for pickup or delivery. We also have calipers, brake fluid, tools, and anything else you'll need to do the job right. When you get Duralast pads and rotors together, you'll save 15%. It's just part of what makes us America's #1 brakes destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are back with our third and final installment of the Giants Draft Show presented by Crestron. I am John Schmeelk. The man to my left is Paul Dottino. We've been carrying you for 2 nights. We got one more day to go. We're on this Saturday afternoon. The Giants have 3 selections today in the NFL draft. They do not have a 7th-round pick. Joe Shane, let's keep it that way. The Giants are selecting at pick 107 in round number 4. In round number 5, remember, the Giants swapped picks with the Carolina Panthers in the Brian Burns trade. So they have pick number 166 in round number 5 that I believe used to belong to the San Francisco 49ers, which I think was that the Christian McCaffrey trade still? Would that pick still
could have been?
It might still be, right? And then the Giants pick in round number 6, just a handful of picks later, at pick 183. So those are the 3 spots the Giants are picking at today. Again, we are taking your calls. So get on the line, get on hold. We'll take a lot of your calls. We'll get ready for the 4th-round pick. The Giants pick in the 7th slot here in round number 4. So we'll talk you through the first 6 picks. I imagine we're probably going to have some trades going on as teams slept on their boards and fell in love with players that are left, and they're going to try to go get them. The same way we saw a million trades at the top of round 2. I think we'll see a lot of those today.
Yeah.
So, Paul, let's real quickly give us our further thoughts on what the Giants have done already before we talk about the guys they might pick here. In round number 4. The more I thought about it, I had Newman as a 2nd-round safety. I had him as my 3rd safety, though, because I thought about it overnight. The reason I had Hicks and Bullard above him, and then maybe I did not arrange my board properly for the Giants' needs, particularly maybe I was doing more of a generic board instead of a Giants board. I thought Hicks and Bullard were better man-to-man defenders if you have to cover guys man-to-man in the slot. And I just, as a general principle, that's a skill I covet a lot. But given...
You don't know what Shane Bowen wants.
Given the way Shane Bowen played in Tennessee and his zone-heavy scheme, Newman is the better zone coverage guy than the other two. As that center fielder, read the quarterback, make plays on the football. And I think Javon Bullard's not far behind, by the way. I think he's an excellent player also. But I think both of them are better than Hicks in that regard. So, to me, I think that makes even more sense why Newman was their top safety on their board, given his ability to play that zone defense, which we think Shane Bowen's going to try to use in his system.
It makes perfect sense if we are to consider what we think about Bowen and what we also know about Brian Daboll as to why the wide receiver and the safety that they took in rounds 1 and 2 are matches for the blueprint of what those coaches want. And let's just go back and emphasize one of the reasons that Shane and Daboll are here is because they are simpatico. These guys have a very clear understanding of each other.
You mean Joe Shane, not Shane Bowen. I'm just making sure we're...
In this case, Joe Shane.
Got it. I just want to make sure that I knew what you meant. Yes.
They are so much tied together at the hip and on the same page. And we have heard from Joe Shane. Okay, I'll make that clear now.
Yes.
We have heard from Joe Shane that he is very, very much willing to get the coaching staff involved in what do you guys want to do with him? What is the plan? How will you use this guy? What is your scheme going to be? And they communicate that with the scouts as they're looking through. That has not always been the case with other administrations, but it is here. And so those first two picks, if you had to predict what the Giants were going to do, instead of just picking your own players, you would understand that these guys fit the blueprint.
And I was hoping to grab somebody at lunch and figure out if they see Phillips as more as a slot or an outside guy. I did not have a chance to do that before the draft started. They were kind of busy and locked in. So.
Did you get, after we were doing a show last night, folks, so we didn't get to listen to Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. Did you go back and get it?
My video kept freezing at home.
I did.
Okay, so fill me in.
They plan to first try him in the slot first.
Try him at slot first.
Because the explanation that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable gave is that they believe that he is much like Cordell Flott. He's interchangeable. They think both guys have inside and outside capability, and they're going to go with Phillips as the slot guy first and see how it works out. But it will play itself through.
I just had a revelation. So Jatavian Sanders went to 101 to the Panthers.
He did.
The top tight end on the board.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos just traded up to 102. Paul, who did the Broncos pick as their starting quarterback?
Oh, you got it. Oh, my goodness.
They just lost Jerry Jeudy this offseason.
Yeah, Franklin.
You know who's available?
Franklin.
Bo Nix's number one option from Oregon.
Franklin.
Troy Franklin. 10-1, that's the pick here.
Oh, that's it. It's done.
You agree with me, right?
It's done. It's done. You know, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Can you talk into the mic, please?
It's got to be. Well, here's the problem. Like, the static is coming from the phone. I had to put it over there.
Okay, I got you.
You didn't want that, did you?
No, I wasn't hearing it at all.
Okay, I was. Okay, there's no doubt. Look, we've talked about Franklin so many times since the Combine. Felt he was a solid second-round choice. But you know what? He's still here.
He was my 34th ranked player, so I was higher on him than most.
And, yeah, if they don't grab him here, that is a major league upset.
Because they need a receiver, too, because they lost Jerry Jeudy.
Yes.
And Cortland Sutton is complaining about contracts and stuff like that. Tim Patrick isn't 100%. They have Marvin Mims, so we'll see. That would be my guess. But let's see if the name comes up
if
here.
It's not. Stunned.
And a lot of the fans are coming out and announcing the picks for these teams today. But I bet you Bo Nix, when he visited Sean Payton, is like, you know who I can really use, guys? You know who I really like throwing the football to?
There he
Troy
is!
Franklin out of the University of Oregon.
There he is!
If you guys go back and watch the video, rewind it, when they show their trade, the Broncos on the clock, you'll see my eyes kind of widen, and you'll see when it actually hits me when I figure out who they're going to pick. All right, so
we were just talking about him at lunch as like he's the best guy left on the board for us.
Easily.
At any position.
Yeah, the only guy left now on my board, Paul, that has a straight-up second-round grade on him is Jaden Hicks, the safety. And I have no other straight-up second-round grades left on my board.
Makes sense.
I have a couple 2-3 guys, Javon Baker, Devontae Walker, and Mekhi Wingo. Those are kind of, So, but otherwise, that's it.
Well, to go back to what we were saying before, just to reiterate about the Giants situation.
Yes.
They come through the first 2 days filling 2 gaping holes. They got themselves a talented, skills-based cornerback. We know they needed corners. In fact, we could even argue you could use 2 just for depth and competition. They got themselves an impact wide receiver who dramatically can affect this offense. And then they got a highly physical, ball-hawking safety who, whether or not you thought it was a higher priority need, the guy's a good player. So they've come through their first 3 picks, in my opinion, doing very well.
All right, now let's talk about what the Giants still need to do here, Paul. As Joe Schoen said before this draft, they have a lot of holes to fill. They're not 1 or 2 players away. So still things you need to fit here.
Yeah.
I think you could still add another cornerback if you want, get another young guy in the room. I don't think that's a bad thing if you want to go there. The top guys on my board at that position, Paul, I got DJ James, TJ Tampa, Chris Abrams, Drain. You want to go a little further down the list, Jarvis, bigger guys, Kyrie Jackson, Cam Hart, Demarcarian Richardson. Then you get to, the Smith Chow, Wade.
Kalen Carson go yet? Wake Forest?
I have him as a 5th, but he has not gone yet.
He has not gone yet. That's another name I'd throw out.
Josh Newton from TCU, Nehemiah Pritchett. So guys like that. Running back, though, to me, this was always the sweet spot for me, Paul. And I think it's worked out. Only 4 running backs went in round 3. So we're going to have a run coming up here. I don't know when it's happening, but it's going to happen soon. And there's still some good running backs left on the board. Ray Davis from Kentucky. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. That's a guy, according to reports, was in for one of the Giants' 30 visits over the course of this offseason. And I think, again, at the point you made a lot yesterday, he's a good yin to the yang of Devin Singletary, and they complement each other very well. If you want a receiver, Will Shipley out of Clemson's out there. If you want speed, Jalen Wright from Tennessee is out there. So those are my top 4 running backs left. Maybe you're a Bucky Irving fan from Oregon. He's still there. Tyrone Tracy is kind of an upside guy. If you like another big guy, Braylon Allen's on the board. Isaac Guerendo's on the board. So still a lot of good running backs, Paul, that could interest teams here in round number 4.
Well, I think here's the other problem, though, if you're the Giants. If we are to agree that they could use a power running back, but then the other potentially important need is a tight end, do you decide to grab the tight end maybe in round 4 and wait for the running back in round 5? Now, I don't think Estime gets to the 5th. So I would want to take him, but could you potentially do that?
Yeah, you might get wiped. You might get wiped out of tight end, Paul, because there are not a lot of guys at that
That's
position.
my problem. So if you really want a tight end, if you want Johnson from Penn State, who was another athletic tight end, reportedly visited the Giants during one of his trips, if you want a Johnson, you probably got to get him here.
Yes, Theo Johnson specifically.
Yes.
I have 4 tight ends that I would pick. There's Lady Robinson, Paul, one of your sleeper guys going to the Patriots.
That's high.
Offensive lineman. So, Cade Stover, Jared Wiley. Stover's more of a two-way player. Wiley's more of a receiver type. You mentioned Theo Johnson, more of a receiver type, and Tanner McLaughlin, more of a receiver type as well. And then Eric All probably is a later round pick just because of all the injury issues.
Stover's still out there, isn't he?
Yeah, that was the first guy I mentioned.
Oh, you did.
Stover is the two-way guy. Then Wiley, McLaughlin, and Theo Johnson are more of your receiving tight ends. So those are the guys that I would consider with 4th round selections at the tight end spot if you want to go there. But I feel, to your point, I liked the running backs are higher graded players on my board than these tight ends, but there are more running backs that can play left than I think there are tight ends. So you're right. That is an interesting debate they're probably having as you plan the strategy of your draft more than just evaluating the player.
Now, I gave you a comment at lunchtime before we came in here, and I said, John, I got a real strong feeling in my stomach. The Giants are going to move up into the bottom of the 4th round to help alleviate this quandary, and either move up into the bottom of the 4th or move up a lot higher into the 5th.
And that'll probably cost a pick from next year's draft to do it.
Because you don't have enough draft capital this year to make that happen.
A 6th round pick's not going to move the needle.
It's not.
No.
It's not. Now, what you might have to do is to move up into the bottom of the 4th, you might have to give up your 5, your 6, and something from next year.
There seems to be some debate in the Cardinals' war room right now.
Yeah. So, I strongly believe if you think that, hey, you really do need to get a running back and you really do need to get a tight end and you want to fill those 2 positions with your next 2 picks, John, you're going to have to move up into the bottom of the 4th round, I think, to get both.
I'm going to throw one other player out there, or 2 other players that I'm not saying they're sticking out like sore thumbs, but they're certainly they're both top 85 players for me on my board. Mm-hmm. And there is position of need. Mekhi Wingo, the 3 technique out of LSU.
Yeah.
He's a very good player.
I do like him.
One of our callers yesterday brought this player up. I have him a little bit further down than Wingo, about 15 spots maybe. Brandon Dorlus, the versatile defensive lineman out of Oregon. So those are 2 guys.
It's really
at
thin,
defensive tackle.
Really thin.
I have no one else until the 5th round in that group.
Really
so
thin.
If you want to go defensive tackle here as a 3 technique, I would understand going down that road as well, because I think both those guys right now would be good value at this particular juncture.
Yeah, I think, we knew going in that the defensive tackle spot was already thin going into this draft. There was only a couple of guys, and if you didn't get them really early, you were going to have to wait quite a while to get decent value at the spot. So it doesn't surprise me, because it was not a primary need for me with the Giants that they didn't go high for one.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the calls here. 201-939-4513. If I had to guess right now, I think if he's there, I think it'd be Estime. What do you think?
I'm on my hands and knees for it, man.
No, I'm asking you to predict, though. I know that's what you want.
I want it in the worst way. If they do want him, they got to take him here. They can't afford to wait. I would say, yeah, I'd be fine with that. I would say I could predict that. I don't like to predict.
Do you think they're doing that, though? Or you think they're doing a tight end? What do you think?
I think they'll take him here and trade up into the bottom of the fourth for the tight end.
Yeah,
that's what I think they're going to do.
I have Wiley and Stover basically touching with both high fourth-round grades. One is my 113th player, one is my 114th player. So I think that would fit here value. So it makes sense.
They could probably get McLaughlin in the lower fourth.
Yeah, I think that's the guy you have the best shot at. I agree with that.
So that's why I'm gonna. I think Estime is more important to them anyway. I want the big power back. I think they understand that. So you go grab him now and then go get one of those tight ends in the lower fourth if you can move up. And I think they will try hard to move up.
All right, 201-939-4513. Folks, go subscribe to our Giants Huddle podcast. It's our interview podcast. We've had great draft interviews, much of which now are kind of not timely because the draft has happened. But we're going to have a lot more stuff coming this week. I'll reach out. I'll try to get some of the college coaches of a lot of these players that the Giants have drafted. You can find the archive of the Thursday night and Friday night draft shows on the Giants Huddle podcast as well. And also draft season with Tony Pauline. We have our round one recap up there. We're also going to recap the entire draft at the end of today, and that will be posting either tonight or tomorrow morning. So make sure you go check out those two podcasts, Giants Huddle and Draft Season. You can find them on the Giants app, giants.com/podcast, or the Giants YouTube channel as well. Go check it out. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can do that too. And if you like what you hear on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our podcasts. And by the way, also Big Blue Kickoff Live, which is our live show every Monday through Friday at 12:30 right here on Giants.com. Make sure you go check that out. The Cardinals pick safety Dadrian Taylor Demerson, who's a real big guy, really nice metrics, good player, good value here for them in round number 4. Did I have a third round grade on him? I got to take a look where he wound up on my board. I think maybe I wound up with a 5th on him if when all was said and done. Or maybe I forgot to put him on my big board. I'll have to check where I'll have to check. Well, I have my rankings here too, so I can just go to my ranking sheet. I have him with a late 3rd round grade. So all right, good pick there.
Let me add this, John.
Yes, and then when I get to the call.
Yeah, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Remember, you can always go back to the archive. Maz, maybe if you have a minute, would you kindly check out, if it's easily accessible, what days on BBKL we talk to the radio voices of our top 3 picks.
I will go back and I'll retweet those at some point today and tomorrow.
You know, because obviously, you know, like I said, when we do our BBKL previews with these guys, we're trying to get you the guys who have their boots on the ground and who have seen these guys each and every week for years. Their scouting reports on these guys is much better than anything else that we could tell you or you're going to read, because they're there. And they know everything about these folks. So, I would definitely, if you have time even before John tweets it out, go back and look.
I don't think, don't do it now because you should keep listening to this program.
That's true. But bookmark it.
I don't believe we did Kentucky, but we did do Minnesota.
We definitely did Minnesota and LSU.
And we did LSU for sure.
Yeah. I don't remember if we did Kentucky. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't recall that either.
Anyway.
But 201, we only have so many days, folks. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Sean in Iowa. He's going to lead us off today. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Well, first of all, John, I just found out on the show the other day that you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan. So, let's go Hawks.
Where in Iowa are you, Sean? That's what I want to know. Where are you in Des Moines? Are you in Iowa City? Where you at?
So we're in the Iowa City area. Actually, right now, I'm driving my daughter all the way to the western border of the state for a basketball tournament. What better way to spend the drive than to talk to you guys?
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I will be in the Clive, West Des Moines area the week of the 4th of July. So I will be spending a week in Iowa in July.
Awesome. It'll be hot. So,
yeah, I know. Trust me. I've been there before July. It's not fun.
So I tell you what, man, lifelong Giants fan. Paul, I love when you're on. Originally from New York, both sides of my family. You remind me of friends and family that I miss here in Iowa. But the other day, there's been a lot of coverage lately, so forgive me. It was probably right after we picked Neighbors. You listed off the receivers that we got. That starting 4 when we put 11 personnel on the field.
Right.
So it's Neighbors, Hyatt, Robinson and Slayton, is that right?
Right.
Yep.
And you said, if you're a DC, how do you defend that? And I've been a DC at the high school level. It doesn't make me an expert, but it does give me an answer to that. And if I had NFL personnel against
Oh no.
Oh.
match,
There you go.
If I'm an NFL DC, I got some dudes, right? I know we got dudes, but I'm going to match up my bets on your bets, play a safety over the top, and then I'm going to send it. I'm sending pressure, because the O-line is the weakness. And I don't want to be a wet blanket and start sounding like something.
I don't blame you. That would be the first thing I do too. I wouldn't blame you. This offensive line hasn't proven that they can protect. I get you.
You know, so I'm hoping that these guys that have come in and some of the guys are getting healthy are going to give Daniel some time to get after it, you know. But I was listening to it, and I thought, you know what, Paul, this is exactly what I would do.
Yeah, Sean, by the way, Sean, real quick, the trick with that is, and I agree that's the plan, the problem is that if you man up Neighbors and he beats your guy off the line, or you set a little pick at the line of scrimmage for him and he gets some space, that could be a touchdown.
Yeah, he could go.
I get it. I totally get it.
And, you know, the other reason why Rondell Robinson and Neighbors on the field at the same time could be tricky is because they've got a lot of gadget stuff that they could do with those guys. You could line them up in a bunch. You could put one in you double slot. You could do one in each slot. You could motion them. You could do wildcat. You could do jet sweep. There's a lot of stuff that I could do to give you a headache, you know.
So I think the biggest thing that Neighbors brings, in my opinion, obviously he's got the skill set, but he gives us options with the rest of the offense that we haven't had, and that's really what I'm excited about.
Cool.
Awesome. Sean, good stuff, my man. Good to hear from you.
Safe travels.
Guys.
Oh, thank you, Sean. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Hugo.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
What's up?
Thanks once again for all the great work and for keeping up the stamina through this long weekend. You know, I guess a few weeks ago on BBKL, I mentioned that one of the things the Giants needed was a slot corner that would be able to support the run game. And one of the things Coach Stable said yesterday is that Phillips really brings the lumber.
He hits. He's aggressive and he's tough.
So you know, in some ways, I see that as a move that may improve us in two positions, in the slot, and by giving us the flexibility to move slot outside, really put a three-corner package out on the field that is improved and better against the run. And I think this safety is going to be better against the run than McKinney, who I never really saw as a great run support player. And as you recall, for some period last year, the Giants treated a wide receiver screen, defending a wide receiver screen, like it was some novel thing. They just couldn't do it, right? You would get teams in thirds and longs, all of a sudden a wide receiver screen goes for 15 or something. So I think this was they were necessary moves. I was a little disappointed in the safety at 47 just because positional value didn't marry up with such a premium pick. And, you know, one of the things I've been worrying about the whole offseason is the defensive line and lack of a three technique. And I'm not sure that can get fixed in a significant way at this stage of the draft. So
the problem, Hugo, the only problem is that there was a huge run on those guys before the Giants made that pick.
And corners. But you know, I was kind of hoping for Jenkins at that point, and he went 2 picks after the safety was taken. But anyhow,
Chris Jenkins, I got you. Yeah, I got
Chris Jenkins. Yeah. Chris Jenkins. Yeah. Look. But either way, with a a second-round pick or a third-round pick. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to address the issue, and I'm not sure what can be done at this point. If you recall, going way back to the beginning of free agency, I was the Christian Wilkins guy, right?
Yeah, that would have cost you a lot of money.
well, you could think of that as do you want that or do you want Brian Burns giving up the 39th overall pick?
Well, to be honest, Hugo, I think we both agree with you that a three-technique defensive tackle on this roster would be helpful, but there also could be some guy who pops free over the summer, too.
Well, I hope that's the case because I'm really worried about this. There's hope in some young guys, but if you really think about it, Nacho and Phillips, the guy we just signed, they're kind of older. They're a bit more like rotational players, and then we're hoping for young guys. And so Dexter's all we really got, and we got some very prominent offensive lines in the NFC East, and Dallas just keeps adding to that position, which is makes my head kind of blow up because they're always successful with all their offensive line picks. So
yeah, they are. You're right about that.
Somebody said to me this
Thank
morning.
You, appreciate the call, man.
Somebody said to me this morning, and I kind of said, it's a huge question mark. I can't go there. Can DJ Davidson do it? I don't know. That's a huge question mark for me. I don't know if he can help out there. I think Riley can help out spelling Dexter. Riley, to me, is a nose tackle. He's not a three-technique. He's a nose tackle.
I agree.
So Riley can help spell him, and I feel pretty good that he can give us a few snaps.
And Nacho's kind of the tweener, right? He could do a little bit of both.
So the question that was asked to me is, well, what do you think? Do you think that, Davidson could be of some help? And that's a big question for me. I just don't know the answer to that.
So we got Brandon London and Amani Toomer in Germany announcing the Giants pick here, and they select Theo Johnson, tight end out of Penn State. One of the guys we mentioned here in terms of the tight end.
Just talked about him, thinking maybe you get the running back first, you get the tight end later. Johnson would have been at the top of our want list. They decide to go for Johnson now. I still think they're going to trade into the bottom of the fourth round if possible and try to get a running back.
Well, let's tell fans about Theo Johnson. 6'6", 259 pounds, from Windsor, Ontario originally. Believe it or not, and I bet you, Paul, you didn't know this, his dad was drafted in the 7th round, pick 193 in the 1980 draft by the New York Football Giants.
I did not know that. I did not know. He's Canadian, and his dad, where does dad play? Does it say?
His dad played receiver at Mott Community College and Hillsdale's College from 78 to 79 and was drafted in the 7th round, pick 193 of the 1980 NFL draft by the New York Giants.
I don't remember him. I don't remember him.
By the way, folks, this is why Dane Brugler's the Beast is the best
That's right.
on the planet.
You know what? Again, Canadian player, that much I knew, but I don't remember his dad, and obviously not coming from a power program either.
Right. So you guys got to understand, too, when we look at the stats here for him, Penn State's offensive system and lack of quarterback play are going to adversely impact these numbers. So career at Penn State over 4 years. He's 23 years old, by the way, because Canada requires more years of high school than the U.S. does.
Correct.
So he's 23 already. 77 catches, 938 yards over 4 years at Penn State, 12 touchdowns, just 6 drops over 4 years, which is a very low number, which is what you like to see. But it's his traits that I think have people excited about Theo Johnson. As I mentioned, 6'1", 259, ran a 4.57 in the 40-yard dash at that size, a 1.6, 110-yard split, jumped 39.5 inches in the vertical jump, 10.5 feet in the broad jump, ran a 4.19 short shuttle, 7.15 three-cone, and he's got 33-inch arms, 19 on the bench at his pro day. So this is a guy, Paul, that checks all the boxes from a physical standpoint, can catch the football, and again, we just haven't seen the production because of that offensive system they have at Penn State. Watching him on tape for me, I didn't quite see the time, speed, and athleticism. And I can get that sometimes when I watch bigger guys. I sometimes don't see it on tape. But you're in round 4. Tight end is generally a traits position, Paul. You want to pick the big, fast guys and then develop them. And that's what the Giants have done Theo Johnson with a ton of promise.
My notes on him were like his frame, his hands, good speed for his frame. You just talked about his frame, John. This is a big guy now. All right, he's sturdy. And that a good blocker too. He can block. He's got that ability. He's not lazy in doing so. Did want to polish his routes up some and get off at the line of scrimmage in his pass routes. Got to get a little bit better at that too. But again, we talked about Penn State's offense. This is not exactly a focus of what they do. So there's a possibility, they can coach that up. Truth of the matter is, though, from an athletic perspective, He is a highly athletic player for his size, and this is a good value need pick as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no question. Dane Brugler had a third-round grade on him in his draft guide. I had a fourth-round grade on him myself. Giants are picking at the top of the fourth round. Good value pick. I'm going to bring up my notes on him, too. That was just me going off of memory. What do I have written down here? Fourth-round tape, but his traits will probably push him into the third round, is what I write here. Rotational tight end that can be taken, that has a really good athletic traits, but it needs to show up more in production on tape.
Well, there's upside to him because of the system and what he was playing with the Nittany Lions.
No question. All right, do you want to take some reaction phone calls here, Paul? All right, so guys, we're going to go to around 1 o'clock, maybe a little bit past if we get enough calls, because the NFL doesn't allow us to stream for more than an hour on day 3 of the draft. So that's what we're going to do. Give us a call at 201-939-4513. Let's go to James in Georgia. He's up next. Hey, James.
Hey, guys, what's going on? Just actually pulled up to a crawdad fest out here in Georgia, so I'll be quick.
Sure.
Love the pick with the tight end. Like I said, Joe Shane's really been killing it this year. A couple of conversations that have been had. I know I called a couple days ago when Bob Papa was saying that pass rush really isn't a thing in need, and Paulie, you were saying how you were kind of echoing what I've been saying, that it is because we can't really depend on what we've been getting out of Azeez Ojulari. Do you think that the position, I know y'all have just hit on it, is too depleted to maybe find somebody in the sixth if we do trade back up into the fourth or whatever?
Yeah, James, I think what Papa was saying, not that they couldn't use help there, just because of what they have there, it's not as pressing of a need as some of these other spots.
A little bit of a lower priority. I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else come in.
Higher priority, though.
And that's fine. I think there were other higher priorities for me, but I agree with you that it's something that was still floating in my mind.
Like, do you think it's a higher priority than running back, for example, James?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
okay, fair enough.
Okay, and that's okay.
Yeah, we need defensive line help because Jaden Daniels just came in. We still got to deal with Dak, like the quarterbacks, and we got to get to Saquon. The quarterbacks and running backs haven't slacked off in our division, in my opinion, and we haven't. Besides Burns, yeah, he's a good addition, but I still think we need a little more help, and not that it's not as pressing as it's more pressing than maybe, like you say, running back or I think it's 1 and 1A. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
And my last is O-line, also too depleted for say the sixth. And who are y'all targeting next outside of side running back here with the next pick? I'll take it off there.
Appreciate the call, James. Thank you very much. I think a 3-technique defensive tackle, running back, another corner. You want to pick a pass rusher, I'm fine with that too at this point. I'm fine with all those things.
Outside of trying to get the big power back, and again, I hope they can trade up into the lower fourth to do it, to me, whatever picks they have left, simply just go best player available. I'm willing to throw need out the door at
As
this
I've
point.
said, when you get to day 3, you just got to pick players that you think can help you.
That's
you can't force it to a certain position.
Just take a guy who, hey, you know what? He's got some skills. Go. I'm taking need out of the equation. If I can get that running back,
welcome to my world.
I'm taking need out of the equation.
All right. By the way, Kyrie Jackson to the Vikings at 108. Pick 109. The Falcons selected Brandon Dorlus. A lot of the guys we've mentioned here. And then the Patriots like Javon Baker, wide receiver out of UCF. I think that's a nice addition for them. I actually like Baker more than I like Jalen Polk, the receiver they picked at the top of round 2.
Yeah, again, we're still seeing quality receivers, as we discussed all along, available and going in the 4th round. This was a very deep receiver draft, and it's proving out to be that way. What their production is over time, the truth will be in the pudding. But we knew you'd be able to draft guys that had something to offer in the 4th round.
Packers just traded up for pick 111 with the Jets. We'll have that pick in a minute. 201-939-4513. In the meantime, Walter's in Nebraska. Walter, we have Sean in the car in Iowa heading in your direction, my friend.
Well, listen, my daughter called me yesterday about the storms and everything like that, and I'm sitting there all into the draft. I'm like, man, just leave me alone. Like, the storms aren't going to do anything, and I felt so bad. I watched the news later on.
Yeah, tornadoes, right? They were crazy, I heard.
Where all of her neighbors, she doesn't live like, she lives like maybe an hour away from me in one of the other cities, and I was like, old stuff.
Hope everything is safe for everybody out there, whoever's impacted or scared or frightened from this stuff. Please, God bless all of you.
I appreciate that, Paulie D. Listen, I just called in about a couple little points. Paul, you were right. I think I want Estime. He's just like straightforward, all business. He looks to like maneuver. But and the one other quick thing that I noticed about him is just that, like, when he leaves his feet, it never seems like long where it's like he's going to hurt himself. Like, when other backs or other people do that, I'm always like, well, you did that to escape one defender, but the other one is just like 2 yards on you. Mm-hmm. But this guy, it's like a hurdle. It's just wonderful. And I had one quick question. Well, not really a question. I guess and I know it's like all inside business, but the Bears. I don't understand how we let Fields go to the Steelers without for a 6th round pick. Like, the Giants could have did something there, knowing that we have a question mark at quarterback. And I know that they, I guess the word is just that they wanted to give him an opportunity to go where he wanted to write his own ticket to wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah, I think the issue with Fields, Walter, and I tried to bring this up at the time to make people understand, the reason I think his market wasn't as robust as some people thought it would be is the fact that he was on the last year of his rookie deal, and we just heard the Steelers are not going to pick up his 5th-year option. Mm-hmm. So it was basically just a 1-year rental. Which is why I think his market was much more timid than what a lot of people, including myself, thought it was going to be.
I may now disconnect with you after we just agreed on what we were going to do before, but if I were the Bears, I would have built around Fields. I would not have taken Williams. I would have traded out of that pick, got a host of more players, and I know it's hard to do, especially with the public outcry. But
I would have about the public outcry, Paul, but just think they couldn't get better than a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields. They could have gotten a bajillion 1st-round picks for Caleb Williams. I think it tells you what the league thinks of those 2 players.
Understood, but there's also the quarterback inflation with these kinds of guys.
Yeah, but why wouldn't Fields have that inflation too? He's also a quarterback.
Well, like you just said, the contract issue.
I understand, but there's such a divergence of the what they could have gotten for. You have to look at how the league thinks of it, right? What you could have gotten for Caleb Williams versus what you could have gotten for Justin Fields. They're literally
miles apart. Right, which is why I would have taken what I could have gotten for Williams. I would have stuck with Fields. If I was in Chicago, I would have stuck with Fields, and I would have continued to build around him. The Bears are getting to be pretty decent. They got some talent on that team now.
I'm saying, even without making that trade, though, they still put a really nice team around Caleb Williams.
They have. I'm just not a Caleb Williams guy. Anyway, I like Fields better. That's all.
Do you really like Fields better as a player?
I do.
Even with what he's shown so far in the NFL?
I would rather. I think with the additional collateral that you would have obtained from trading that number 1 pick, and with what Fields has to offer, the net sum would have been better than what Caleb Williams is going to give you.
Think you win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields as your quarterback?
I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. But I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. I think he's going to be one of those folks a few years down the road. We're going to be saying, man, that was not a good number 1 pick.
What if they would have taken Drake May?
I like Drake May very much. You know that.
So if you had the pick, you would have just not made the trade. You would have traded Fields and taken May.
If I had because I still think the collateral. I think they can still win with Fields.
Okay.
And the collateral they could have gotten for the pick would have really boosted their chances to do that.
We won't disagree on that.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Hey, I wanted to keep Kerry Collins and draft Robert Gallery to help the offensive line and not make the trade for Eli Manning. Okay? I'm not afraid to tell you. I'm here and I stand on what I believe.
You got to be right. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong.
Absolutely.
That's how it goes.
No doubt.
Walter, you got anything else for us?
I got one last quick one.
I'm sorry to take your time, Walter. Go ahead.
No worries, guys. We love the show. I got one last quick thing, and I just was hoping you guys might be able to shed a little light on it. Like everyone else, I've been just enthralled in all of the draft coverage and this, that, and the third. Darren Waller. I heard somewhere that like he's either holding out just to he may still retire, but he's just holding out to get the bonus that would come from starting in June practices or what it may be. I was hoping that you guys might be able to shed a little light on that. I love the show, and I just wanted to let you know that I would definitely buy the Schmeelk book as long as Paulie D is rapping it, to go ahead and publicize it. So
very good, Walter. Good stuff, man. Appreciate the call, and guys,
be good.
By the way, we've got a lot of new phone calls over the last few days for the people that usually, I guess, when they're like normal people, you're working during the day and you can't call when the show's on from 12:30 to 1:30, and it's been great to hear from all you guys over the past couple of nights. The people that have said they've listened to the show for a long time. Clearly, Walter has. He's picking up on our jokes.
Yeah.
Real guys, I can't tell you how much it means to us. We really appreciate to have such a loyal group of listeners and viewers out there. Thank you for that. Seriously, you guys do an unbelievable job, and we're humbled by the viewership that we get on all of our podcasts. And by the way, I do think the Theo Johnson thing gives you a hint that they don't know if Darren Waller is going to be here. So this whole thing that he's just holding out to come in later, no. Because I don't think you necessarily would be picking a tight end in the spot if that was the case. So I think the Giants honestly don't know what he's going to do. They're giving him his room to figure it out. But Theo Johnson is a receiving tight end. He had over 200 snaps playing either in the slot or outside last year, and he had about 300 in line.
Correct.
So he could do both. He's an athlete. He is a potential replacement for Waller if he does in fact retire. He's a better athlete than Bellinger is.
Yes. And I would like to believe that where at Penn State, he was not necessarily a big part of an explosive and exciting passing attack very much. Okay, that was not emphasized. I'd like to believe that he can get coached up, and that can be developmental. Remember, his traits are really strong, so there is upside there if that's the way the Giants need to go.
Of course, the Ravens can just sit there at 113 and they get Devontae Walker, because that's what the Ravens do. They just sit and pick the best player available, and they get good players all the time. Sorry for interrupting. You just annoy me because they always have guys fall in their laps.
And we were talking about him all night last night as, again, one of those second-tier receivers that was falling like a rock.
And all three of those guys, Paul, that we mentioned in our little pre-show barbecue lunch here are gone. Franklin, Baker, and Walker.
Bingo.
Those are the three guys I had left with potential second-round grades on them.
Yep.
All gone in the first 13 picks.
And once again, quality wide receiver prospect getting all the way to the fourth round. We told you that was going to be the situation because it was such a deep situation.
Anyway, I interrupted. You were still talking about the tight ends, Paul. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, the one other thing in terms of the tight end situation, the caller was on the road. Waller was at a local medical center doing a speech yesterday on mental health awareness. Apparently he's involved with that organization. A couple of the local writers did go to see him, I guess, and talk to him before that they came to the draft here at the Giants headquarters. The quotes from their stories, not interpretations, but the quotes from their stories, is that Waller said he is preparing with all his workouts as if he's going to play. But he is still not made up his mind because he doesn't have a clear head. Obviously, TMZ had been the one to report that he went through a divorce or was going through one right now. And so there's a lot going on, in his life. And he hasn't sorted it out and doesn't know if he can fully commit mentally to being a player this year to his teammates.
And by the way, even if he comes back this year, there's always a chance he could decide to retire next offseason. He's over 30. You need a replacement for him down the road.
Right.
Like you mentioned, Theo Johnson, because of the Penn State offense, a bit of a developmental guy. So the pick would still make sense even if he's...
Absolutely. Whether or not you took him early fourth, late fourth, whatever it was, the Giants obviously saw that there was a lot of upside, and they made the move.
Let's go to my current hometown. Let's go to Abby in Nutley. Abby, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, Paul? How you doing, John?
Hi.
What's up, dude?
And, so far, I'm excited. The bottom line is that, Joe Shane is trying to do, fill up the holes that we have. I like the Taylor Newman pick at safety, with McKinney. The fact that we got a number one receiver in Neighbors, I like that. I was happy to hear that they were aggressive trying to go after Drake May, because that was the quarterback that I really wanted. I know that we got only 2 picks left so far, and, still a way to go to 166. And like you, Paul, I want a power running back just in case. I miss Brandon Jacobs a lot. I miss that, having that power late in games. But so far, I'm still hoping that Spencer Rattler hits here. I know he's a quarterback that it seemed like could be a top quarterback coming out of college a couple of years ago. I guess he had that type of hype. I don't know what really happened. He kind of fell off. But so far, I like the direction the team is going, and I like the Theo Johnson pick at tight end. Like y'all was talking about Waller and everything. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. But the bottom line, this kid looks, like he has a good potential to actually be kind of like a weapon underneath and stuff like that, and some block. So probably we get our own Kelsey or Gritter here. But other than that, I want to say thank you for your coverages. Everything y'all do for the last couple of years, it's been awesome. Just bringing out the information day by day, year by year. I know it has to be hard work, and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
And again, thank you all you guys for listening. You guys, by the way, for everybody that's listening to this, and if you're listening to the recording or live or whatever, if you have friends that are Giant fans and maybe don't know about what we do here, tell them.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. And let them know to go check out our stuff and to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Again, leave those 5-star positive reviews if you're on Apple Podcasts. That certainly helps too.
Good time to remember or remind people that Big Blue Kickoff Live is every Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour. We could take your phone calls then too, not just during the draft.
5 days a week, 25 days a week, 12 months a year. You usually take 1 week off around the 4th of July, and that's usually it. Otherwise, we are up and live every day. And you know why we're able to do that? Because of you guys. Because we get calls and we have people listening, and you're wonderful, and we really appreciate it. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Bash in Ohio. Bash, what's up, bud?
What's going on, John? Hey, Paulie.
Hi.
Pick at tight. Good. A couple of things I wanted to bring up as far as that. The tight end, I love to pick with a tight end from Penn State, Theo Johnson. Wanted to get y'all take on him with Jatavion Sanders going with the first pick to Carolina. How did y'all have them matched up, and how do you compare them to as far as the Theo Johnson and Sanders? Where did y'all have them ranked as far as the tight ends and as far as those two?
I had Sanders a little bit higher than Johnson, probably by about 20 slots or so. But it's a tough spot because if you put Theo Johnson in that Texas offense, I think there's a good chance he's just as productive as Sanders, right?
Right.
Johnson, I think, might have actually. I'll look at their RAS scores, but I think I think he might have tested a little bit better. And the other thing too, Johnson's a little bit of a bigger frame, so I think he has
no question.
He has more blocking upside than Sanders does, in my opinion. So that is kind of what differentiates those two guys for me.
Yeah, there's no doubt the frame makes Johnson much more attractive, and John makes the best point of all. You're talking about two guys in totally different systems, the way that they run their passing game and the way they utilize their tight ends. Yeah. So you have to really project based what your upside is for Johnson. If he was allowed to use all of his tools and was in a system that was more conducive to getting some of those headline or highlight kind of plays that we're talking about. It's hard to do, but you got to project it. I'm happy with Johnson.
Right, that's what I was thinking. As far as they said, he wasn't really utilized in Penn State because they was a run-heavy team.
Absolutely.
So he wasn't really utilized, so I love the Johnson pick.
And by the way, Bash, real quick, even when they threw it, Penn State's quarterback play was
not great. Not great.
Not the best this year.
One thing I only wished as far as that we would have traded back with that pick. I think there was a lot of tight ends available in this area as far as the 4th round. So I wish it was a trade back with us having a late pick in the 5th round. As far as that, I wanted to ask about the 5th round pick. As far as I think the Colts or the Bills have our 5th pick, how did that happen as far as I know we have the 49ers were late in the 5th round, but what happened with our 5th round pick? I remember as far as how did
we swapped it.
The Bills or the
Burns deal.
Yeah, the Burns deal, we swapped it with the Panthers.
Oh, okay.
So that's why the Panthers are picking for us at 141, and we are picking for the Panthers at 166, and the Panthers got 166 from the 49ers, I think in the Christian McCaffrey trade.
Oh, okay. That's what I didn't know why we said that. So that's why I thought we would have traded back in the fourth just to get some extra picks, but it's not picking it so far in the fifth. So just wish that we would have traded back and probably got some more picks and got Johnson because there's a lot of tight ends. And one more question, and I'll take that offline with y'all. As far as I know, in your mock draft y'all had a couple of weeks ago, Paulie, you said something about T.J. Thompson's Tampa. So I want to know, why is he falling as far as the cornerback from, I'm not sure where he's from, the Tampa cornerback is falling, still sitting here in the fourth. I know y'all had like a second or third round grade on him. So what's the thing with Tampa?
Yeah, look, T.J. Tampa is a big, physical wide receiver, cornerback, and he doesn't, at least in my opinion, he's not a great side-to-side athlete, and I imagine that's what probably have teams a little bit worried. He didn't run as well as you would have liked at the Combine either. He was an over 4.5 guy on a very, very fast turf in Indianapolis, so that's probably turned teams off a little bit too, I would guess.
I had three red flags on him for me. One is that he gambles too much. And in the NFL, that will really get you burned. Doesn't wrap up very well with his tackling necessarily. A little inconsistent in terms of, bringing guys down. And I didn't see, when John says about the speed, I also didn't see that he had a second gear. If he had to slow down or stop, he wasn't able to pick it up and get that second gear going off. And this is why, for me, he was a third round. He wasn't a first or a second rounder, but I had to pick him in our mock draft because at that time, all the other corners were going. And, so it was like, okay, he's a big corner. He can play outside. We'll take him in that mock that we did. But he, to me, was a playable. He was one of, in those three tiers of corners who I would have been comfortable with and said, hey, he's got a chance to do something.
Thank you, Bash. Appreciate the call. And just when you asked about the tight ends with Sanders and Johnson, and for those of you that have listened to our show before, you know that we like something called RAS scores. Kentley Platt, Math Bomb on Twitter, does a great job of, having a historical database dating back to the 80s on every position, their measurements and testing at the Combine. In terms of where they rank. And Theo Johnson got a 9.93, which means he scored higher.
Outstanding.
That's the 99th percentile. That's
outstanding.
What that equals. Jatavian Sanders was in the 57th percentile. So that gives you an idea. He was in the green, which is what the highest percentile in short shuttle. 3-cone was barely out of the green, but otherwise Theo Johnson's size, wingspan, all that stuff checked every box. Again, 99th percentile in terms of RAS athletic score. Jordan Jefferson goes to the Jaguars, a really good, solid, powerful interior defensive lineman, like that pick for Jacksonville there. I think he's more of a smaller nose than he is a 3 technique myself. But anyway, Paul, we have 2 more calls, but why don't you give us your point, and then we'll get to the calls because we're getting close to an hour here.
Okay, simply want to say that if you're talking about the 5th round for the Giants, that's number 166 overall, and right now, they are only at pick 117. That is an awful long time to wait, which is all the more reason why I still think that Joe Shane is going to do everything he can to get back up into the bottom of this 4th round, because if you've got to wait 50-something picks before you grab your next need, if you believe it is the big running back, John, I don't know that you're going to be able to do it unless you move up.
Well, you got to find somebody willing to do it, though, too, right?
That's true.
That's always the trick. When Eric All went to the Bengals, I didn't see that. He went during one of our conversations here. He's the super athletic tight end that's had 1 million knee injuries out of Iowa. Really good athlete, good player, but again, he's had a lot of injury issues. So, and then the Jaguars had that second pick in round number 4. They took Javon Foster. He's an intriguing offensive tackle prospect. I like him as a 4th round value. He had a nice showing at the Senior Bowl. So a couple good picks there, I think, for the Jaguars. And now the Colts are on the clock at pick number 117. All right, let's go back to the phones at 201-939-4513. But first, just a reminder, folks, Giants season tickets, giants.com/tickets. Become a season ticket member. Benefits in the offseason, benefits in season, a whole lot of great stuff. Go to giants.com/tickets to learn more. And there's a good chance you're watching this on Giants TV, the Giants digital streaming app. It has all of our programming on it. Everything that's on our YouTube channel, you can go watch our stuff there too, by the way, the Giants YouTube channel. You can find it on Apple TV. You can find it on Android TVs. You can find it on Amazon Fire TVs. Any smart TV, just download the Giants TV app where you can stream all of our programming, all of our podcasts, interviews, video features, highlights, you name it, it's there. Go to Giants TV and check that out. All right, 2 more calls and a couple of names that aren't super familiar, which I like to see. Tim in Florida. Tim, what's going on, man?
Hi, guys. How are you doing today?
We're great.
Okay, so far, I can't say that I dislike anybody they've picked today. I'm not sure I'm crazy about a cornerback who's never had an interception, but the elephant in the room to me, or 2 of them are, 1, we ranked 29th in sacks last year, and I don't see any improvement in there, and we have had the worst offensive line.
Tim. They traded for Brian Burns.
I know what you're going to say, but I think he's just a healthy Ojulari. I think he's the same player, but healthier. But that being said, we have just kind of done a bait and switch with backup caliber O-line and free agencies for 2 years and not drafted top quality O-line men when we had 2 great guards left when we took that cornerback. And I don't know how I like Daniel Jones. I think physically he has all the tools to be successful. I just think that management's never given him an O-line to be successful.
Do you think John Runyon's only a backup quality offensive guard?
No. John Runyon was a quality one. I think got if they're healthy. If Andrew Thomas, he's played 1 good year out of 3. Neal's been nothing. Schmidt was hurt, and he really wasn't superstar. And the other guys were all backups.
Stinnie started for a playoff team in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, but his
only 1 year
metrics weren't the best.
Yeah, I get that, but he did start.
I'm just saying. Any health issues with the Thomas again, or if Neal doesn't get better, I just don't understand why they're not addressing finally fix the darn O-line. What good's a secondary? Secondary without a pass rush is meaningless. Wide receivers, when we went out and got Galladay, what's the difference? They never throw downfield. Without an O-line, what quarterback, what running back can be successful? And they keep pushing it off with free agent I don't know why they're never drafting the top O-line guys.
Well, they've used a lot of draft capital on offensive linemen now. They used a first-round pick on Andrew Thomas. They used a first-round pick on Evan Neal. They used a second-round pick on John Michael Schmitz. They used a third-round pick on Josh Azudu. They've put a lot of draft capital into the position.
Yep.
And how many have been successful?
No, but you said they didn't try.
Yes, you said they were not investing high picks. You said they did not invest high picks in the offensive line. That is not true.
In the last 10 years, they've taken 3. Flowers was a bust. Thomas was one who's been good when he was healthy the year before, and Neal has been a bust.
Don't go back. Don't go back 10 years. Go back 5 years. Go back 6 years. You're going back into a previous regime. You can't hang that on the current regime. You go back 5 or 6 years. They've used 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick, all on offensive linemen. That's a lot of capital over a span of 5 years.
I understand that, but it's still not fixed, is what I'm saying, and that's been the biggest crutch on the Giants. Their offense has suffered. The running game has suffered. The downfield passing game has suffered, and Daniel Jones has been running for his life and taking more sacks, or whoever's back there. And I'm just saying, until that's fixed, does any other player make a difference?
Tim, totally understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with your concept. You have to get the offensive line fixed. I think the front office believes, with the addition of a new offensive line coach, you hope you get Evan Neal figured out a little bit. They brought in John Runyon to be a starting guard. You have John Michael Schmitz going into his second year. You have Andrew Thomas at left tackle. So you theoretically have 4 of your spots figured out there, right? You have your left tackle figured out. You have one of your guard spots figured out. You have your center figured out. So that's 3 spots, pardon me. Then you bring in a guy like Illuminor, who has been a starter for 2 years. You could argue whether or not you would rather have him be a top backup or a starter, but he has started for 2 years. And then you hope Evan Neal figures it out. So you have put significant resources into 3 of those spots. And 2, you don't know for sure, but I think you feel okay that you have guys that can do the job. So yes, could they have poured more resources into it? Yes. But I do think you are then taking resources away from other positions where you can use a whole lot of help.
Ozuna was a 3. That's not exactly not a resource.
Oh, no, it's a resource, but he just hasn't shown anything in his playing time.
But they did use a 3, which was an effort to try to get somebody who could play.
I'm beyond using the resources. We're just kind of talking about kind of where we are now in terms of how confident you feel with the guys at each spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at granted, Andrew Thomas is going to go into his 4th season. Neil's going into his 3rd.
6th, right? Schmeelk, I think it's 6th year for Andrew Thomas.
It's amazing how long he's been around already.
Is it 6th?
I think this is his 6th year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
5th or 6th? Is it 5th?
Andrew Thomas?
5th year?
Is it his 5th year?
I don't even
Andrew
remember.
Thomas I think Andrew Thomas is just at 3 years.
No. 5th year, though. He was drafted the year after Daniel Jones, right? He was their 2020 first-round pick. So he played in the 2020 season, 2021, 2022. This will be his 5th season.
It is his 5th. Yeah, it's his 5th. It's amazing. It seems like he just got here yesterday.
Well, I guess contracts are going to come up, and what I'm saying is I see free agent signings. I see guys now they're going to have to decide whether to pay him.
Well, they already paid Andrew Thomas, Tim.
He got a second deal.
He signed through 2029, dude.
But I'm saying he's hurt. He lost the full season, and I'm saying we don't know how he's going to come back this year. We still have no idea what Neil's going to do. I'm just saying there's no younger ones coming up to drop to see whether they'll develop for the future.
I mean, Andrew Thomas came back and finished the year last year. He's healthy. He's fine.
You think so?
Yeah, he's absolutely fine. He had a hamstring injury.
I'm missing it.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas.
You're thinking about Neil.
Yeah, you're thinking about Evan Neal. Evan Neal finished the year with a knee injury, and he did not return. I think
correct.
You're confused. Neal's heading into his 3rd season. You're confusing Neal and Andrew Thomas.
Then I blew it because I thought Andrew Thomas missed most of the season without being there. Because
No, he missed 7 games last year, but he missed it with a hamstring injury in the first half of the year. He played the final 7 games of the year last year, Andrew Thomas.
My bad. I thought he missed.
It's all right.
No, you're all good. Appreciate the call, Tim. Good stuff, my man. 201. And look, guys, no one is more sympathetic to people that want to just keep throwing resources at the offensive line until you get it fixed. I get that. I'm never going to criticize you for that if that's the way you feel, given what we've seen here over the last 7 or 8 years. I totally get it. But they did throw a lot of resources at the offensive line this offseason. So you hope that pays off. It was more throw numbers at the problem rather than, one huge contract for one guy. But they did throw a lot of resources at it. All right, final call of the show is Aaron in Texas. Aaron, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope you're having a good Saturday, first and foremost.
We're talking to you guys. We're having a great Saturday. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. Great Saturday. This is going to be a different call than what you guys normally get. I know normally it's a lot of negative Nancy's per se, but I want to give props to Joe Shane. He's having a great draft. Not reaching for a quarterback, that's awesome. You love to see it. You got a great value with Neighbors. Now we got Daniel Jones, the number 1. I'm going to be honest. I'm not 100% sold on Daniel Jones, but I'm fair to say that he hasn't really had this. I think this is probably going to be his most optimistic going into a season, which is unfortunate. He's coming off the ACL, but I think he'll be okay. An ACL nowadays isn't what it used to be. I think
this is definitely, as we stand here today, the best supporting cast Daniel Jones will have had in his career with the Giants, and quite frankly, it's not close.
Yeah, correct.
I'd like to see a little more production or explosiveness out of the running back room. Because they've taken a step back there.
I will trade that for more explosiveness out of the wide receiver position.
That's fair.
100%.
That's fair.
100%. We're on the same point there. And the other thing I was just going to say is that, I was even having this argument because, as you guys heard, I'm from Texas, so I got nothing but Cowboy fans around me. So I was letting them know, if you really stop and think about it, I'm not sure if you guys have thought about this, but Malik Neighbors might be the best player that Daniel Jones has ever thrown the football to. If you think back all the way to Duke.
Oh, no. Time out. There ain't no might about it, dude. He is. And it's not, frankly, I'll use the expression again. I know he hasn't taken a snap in the NFL yet.
Skill set wise.
He's the most talented wide receiver Daniel Jones has been around, and that's not even close.
Skill set wise, yes.
I saw this thing, and not to kind of just say what we already know about Malik Neighbors, right? But I saw this video that showed his measurables side by side with Jamar Chase, and they're almost identical, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, it's still what's between the ears, and the kids gotta put it on the field and everything. But like we said, it's not even close. He's the best guy. And even before this, no disrespect to the guys who have gone out there and played for us, but I mean, Daniel Jones has been up there in some nice statistics, like deep pass completion rate, I think is what it was. His deep ball's always been nice.
It was deep ball accuracy 2 years ago.
There you go.
That was very high. Yes,
right.
Not enough of them. You want more of them, but the accuracy a couple years ago was excellent.
Exactly. And one thing that I've always seen with Daniel Jones is that one thing you always see people say is like the fumbles. Hey, in crucial situations he fumbles. But besides that Seahawks game last year where he threw that pick six, you don't see that a lot from Daniel Jones.
For the last 2 years, he has kind of fixed
improvement
the
has been dramatic.
Issues. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. You just need more overall production now is what you need.
Exactly. It's hard to be consistent when you don't have consistency around you. So, like, if he kind of goes into this year, has some nice consistency. I know it's hard because they got that whole decision of, hey, they got to make that decision now. Are they going to cut him after this year, or are they going to stick with him the 4 years? I know that's a tough choice. Daniel Jones is going to have to put a lot on the field. I would say if he does what he did in 2022, that's probably not going to be enough, in my opinion. But, who am I to say, right? I'm not sure. I just think generally speaking. But if he shows, I'd say goes out there, has a nice season, 10-plus wins, I think he's got to hit 10-plus wins, in my opinion. Just because, I know the number specifically doesn't matter, but I think it'll just look nicer next to his name.
Hey, look, this is not the most important season of Daniel Jones' career. That was 2 years ago, the year before he got a contract because he was going to be a free agent. But this is the second most important season of Daniel Jones' career, mostly because he has to show the team that he can stay healthy for a full year. That's a big part of it again, too. Oh, my gosh. Did they really?
I guess we can rephrase it. We can rephrase it to this is the most important season in Daniel Jones' Giants career. Let's put it that way. I would say, because obviously for his personal gain, he got his money, obviously well-deserved. He's still a good quarterback in the NFL. I feel like Daniel Jones is a guy who can benefit from a fresh start, personally. Don't get me wrong, I would love for him to succeed with the Giants, but even if it doesn't work out, I think a fresh start would be great for him anywhere else he were to go. I think, honestly, Daniel Jones would succeed if he were to leave the Giants after unfortunate circumstances. But, I'm kind of trailing off. I'm sorry, guys, but point of the call was
all right.
to give Joe Schoen his props because, like we said, he got Malik Neighbors, which was a nice pick. Everybody knows about that one. He got us a starting safety after everyone bagged him for letting Xavier McKinney walk, which I agreed with. You don't pay that position premium money. We're on the same page there. And the corner. The corner is solid. I know everyone's going crazy that he doesn't have any picks, but I think I heard Dion say once that when you don't have a lot of picks, it means they're not throwing to you a lot. So, I'll take it. I think I'll take it. His one-on-ones look nice. And today we got the tight end. Nice security. Am I mistaken that he was rated tight end 2 after Bowers, or is that accurate?
It depends on what board you look at. Yeah. Most people had Jatavian Sanders as a second tight end, but he was definitely in that next group.
To simplify, picks 3 and 4, and I think John will agree with me on this, picks 3 and 4 were more traits picks. Both of those guys have good athletic traits that should show upside once they get here. And if you believe in your coaching staff to bring out more in these guys, they should have the tools that will allow you to do it.
I think Theo Johnson was probably more of a traits pick than Phillips. Phillips he ran the high 4.4s, and he's not super long, he's not super tall, so he doesn't check every traits box. But he certainly can. I think he's a versatile cornerback that can do multiple things.
Only played 2 years as a starter at Kentucky, so there should be more ups at him, is what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You're spot on, and it's like even the other pick with Neighbors. Going back to Neighbors real quick, it's not even just about what Neighbors. We spoke on what he does for Daniel Jones, but what he does for Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson underneath. Wan'Dale Robinson really hasn't been able to, I feel, thrive as the true slot receiver that he is. I think if he can have a full season where he has someone taking that double team outside, I know obviously Saquon's not there, but I think, like you said, we'd rather have that explosive option outside that can take the top off. And, Wan'Dale can do what he does underneath. And he's scary good sometimes. That's not even – Hyatt hasn't even really become the player that he can be. So, it's really – I feel like it's a nice move for overall offense. And then going back to what everyone else wants, because we all know why everyone was complaining. Everyone wanted Joe Schoen to reach for a quarterback. That's what everyone wanted. But what's the point of getting a quarterback if he wouldn't have had a good offense? Let's say worst-case scenario, Daniel Jones doesn't work out. At least Joe Schoen is building a nice landing spot for whoever does end up.
Hey,
in this situation.
yeah, Aaron, great stuff. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
You can never go wrong with building a good roster with really good players.
Exactly.
No, that's right.
Exactly.
It's true. And by the way, I'm just going to throw out 2 laurels here to other teams that understand their identity and are playing into it nicely. The Dolphins just got Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, the 4.38 running back. So now they're either going to have him or Devon A-Chain on the field for every snap.
Yes.
I mean, could that fit better with what
That's
they're trying to do?
Really good.
Then I also want to throw some laurels with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was just going to say.
Let me make sure I have the players right.
Yeah.
In the first round, they draft Troy Fautanu out of Washington. We know what a good player is. Guard, tackle, take your pick. Whatever.
Trenches.
They pick Zach Frazier, center out of West Virginia
Trenches.
in round 2, who is going to be a starting center, former wrestler, really good player. And then they pick one of my personal favorites here in round 4, Mason McCormick, who's another just road-grading, powerful guard. So they might have gotten 3 offensive line starters in the first 4 rounds of the draft. And the Steelers want to play into being a physical running team. Well, they just played into that big time with their draft picks over the last couple of days.
McCormick out of South Dakota State, one of those guys
Love
who
McCormick.
will get knocked for the competition level that he played against. But again, if you love the traits, you believe you're going to be able to coach out the best in him, even against the higher level comp. So, that's a risky pick to some. But if you like the traits, man, you got to really be happy getting him where you did if you're the Steelers.
First punter. I missed it.
Just now?
The Bears at 122. Torrey Taylor out of Iowa.
Wow.
Look out. We stayed on for the first specials, Paul. We've gotten 1 player from every position now off the board. It's very exciting.
No kickers yet.
Put punters and kickers into one category.
Taylor.
You always got to rain on my parade this week.
It's all right.
You're killing me.
Interesting number about Taylor, right? Over 46-yard average at Iowa. 43% of his punts were inside the 20.
Got to be honest with you,
really
I
good.
did not scout any of the punters or kickers.
I didn't look at them video-wise. I did write down certain stats, though, for certain of them because I thought there was a possibility that they might go.
No, sure. Yeah,
So,
I did not decide to use my time that way, which is fine.
Yep.
Paul, great job last week.
Can I give you one sleeper?
Yes, give me
Giants
your final
fans,
thoughts.
my absolute total sleeper, deep sleeper, Isaac Guerendo. Keep the name in mind. He may wind up being an undrafted rookie free agent. He may not even get picked.
With those numbers at the combine?
4.33 in the 40.
He's getting picked.
6 feet tall, 220 pounds, power back. Did not play much at Wisconsin, was buried on the depth chart, transferred to Illinois, played some last year. He is green, he is raw, he is inexperienced, hasn't had a lot of work. But the traits are off the charts. If you want a big thumper of a running back, Isaac Guerendo, deep sleeper for me. We'll see. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a deep sleeper for you. You want a receiving running back? Dylan Loud out of New Hampshire? You want a receiver that can play the position a little bit? He's a guy I like.
want a thumper.
So, I don't have a thumper. I have Dylan Lobb. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, look, guys, there's still a lot of good players on the board. Cade Stover, tight end from Ohio State, just went. And, Paul, the tight ends are almost wiped out. We talked about why you would pick a tight end in this round instead of a running back. We've only had 1 running back taken, Jalen Wright. And the tight ends, except for Tanner McLaughlin, did Jared Wiley get picked? I don't think so.
No,
right?
not yet.
So Wiley and McLaughlin
It's
are
getting
still
close,
there.
though.
But
we
the other guys
discussed
are
that,
all,
right?
I'm surprised Eric All went ahead of Wiley.
Yeah,
to be
me
honest
too.
With you.
But that was a predicament, an enigma that we were trying to solve. Do you grab the tight end here? Do they go? Or do you grab the big power back here? Do they go? Giants decided tight end. It looks like they made a good move.
They did. Paul, excellent job the last couple of days, my
Been a lot of fun.
Guys, thank you again. I can't tell you, the fans, how grateful you are for you for being with us and hanging with us and calling in and just making these shows awesome. It's my favorite 3 days of shows that we have all year long. Just remember, and we'll talk about it more this week, these are the 3 most important days of any NFL offseason. It's more important than, it's less sexy and it's less flashy than free agency and less exciting for a lot of people, but it's the most important thing because if you draft well, you build a cheap foundation of your team, and then you don't have to use free agent money on other players. You lose players you draft, you get comp picks for those players, and you just keep rebuilding yourself all over and over again. Look at how consistent the Eagles and the Cowboys have been over the past 5 or 6 years being a good football team. It's because they draft well, they re-sign their own guys, they lose some other guys in free agency, they get comp picks, then they turn those comp picks into more players, and the cycle just keeps repeating itself. So it's so important to build your foundation through the draft. It really is what makes franchises great. You know, we talked about the Ravens, how they always draft well. All these good teams draft well. If you don't draft well, eventually the cycle ends and you hit down spots.
I'd even go as far as to say the Steelers. Throw them in there too.
They understand their identity.
They do. They know what they want. They're consistent, and they just keep turning the wheel.
Paul, the 49ers' best skill position players are Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Brock Purdy. They're all drafted. One was in the first round. Another was day 2. Purdy, we all know, was a day 3 pick. George Kittle was a day 3 pick.
Tell me about it.
Just go down the list. The teams, their safety, Hufanga, he was a day 3 pick, right? I don't think he was even a day 2 pick. So these
the trade for McCaffrey, but you know what? I get what you're saying.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
You can then supplement, right?
Right.
But the basis of what you do, and drafting well allows you to make trades like that. Do you know why the Niners could trade for Christian McCaffrey? They had a bunch of awesome players on rookie contracts they weren't paying. That's how you're able to trade for a guy like Christian McCaffrey. So, and that's why the Giants were able to trade for a guy like Brian Burns, because they are starting to have a really young roster here. We'll see if these draft picks develop into those types of players, but they have to if the Giants want to become a perennial playoff team like some of these other teams in the NFL. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll be back with Big Blue Kickoff Live on Monday as we recap the draft. And then every day, 12:30, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Make sure you tune in. For Paul Dottino, thank you to Sean O'Hara for joining us last night. Again, thank you to the callers out there. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us for the Giants Draft Show presented by Crestron.
Turns out a delightfully clean home can make for a delightful start to the day. At Mrs. Meyer's, everything they make is inspired by the garden. With plant-derived and other thoughtfully chosen ingredients, their cleaning products smell like a dream and work like the Dickens, leaving your home sparkly clean and your to-do list tackled in no time. Goodness, there's no better feeling than that. Mrs. Meyer's, rooted in goodness. Visit mrsmeyers.com today.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Castrol Edge can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $36.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.